ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु वपद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri the Prabhupada ki Jai. Sorry for the discontinuity. Yesterday we could not have the class. This program is daily hosted by His Grace Mudit Krishna Prabhu, Her Grace Parijat Leela Mataji, Tapan Prabhu. This is the core team. And last 2 days, mother of Mudit Krishna Prabhu was very, very sick. So, and day before yesterday, we had gone to meet her. And after a prolonged sickness, she departed from this world. She passed away. It was a very auspicious kind of a departure because all devotees were chanting Hare Krishna, devotees were singing Narsingh Arti. Also, she received a call from His Grace Radhesham Prabhu just 15 minutes before the departure. And she herself was also a very wonderful devotee. Initiated, her name was Sri Yashoda Devi Mataji. And she started chanting in 1999, 16 rounds. And last more than 25 years, she was chanting rounds. So although she started chanting in 1999, she got initiated in 2014. And after the initiation, she started chanting 32 rounds every day. So last 10 odd years, 10 plus years, she was chanting 32 rounds every day, have read Bhagavad Gita, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, especially Chaitanya Bhagavat, so many multiple times. Great support to very, very greatly enthusiastic personality, always looking forward, coming for yatras. I have seen so many yatras where Mudit Krishna Prabhu and Parijat Leela Mataji, they were carrying oxygen cylinder. Can you imagine? And she is attending yatra like that. They both are doctors, so they could afford to do this kind of adventure. But this was the enthusiasm of her attending yatras. So we will all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, that we could witness such a amazing spiritual example. And she must have attained, we are reading Vaikuṇṭha only. So she must have attained a very, very high planet, very high destination. We don't speculate what she has attained, but Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says about this, Yam Yam Vapi Smaran Bhavam Tyajati Ante Kalemaram Tam Tamevaiti Kaunteya Sadatat Bhava Bhavitaha. That a consciousness very deeply absorbed in Krishna, and a devotee is praying, chanting, surrounded by the holy name. The holy name is non-different than Krishna. So surrounded by Krishna in that way, she had a very glorious departure. So let us chant 3 times Hare Krishna Mahamantra for Her Grace Sri Yashoda Mataji, and seek her blessings and on our spiritual life and us. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. want to very specifically appreciate His Grace Mudit Krishna Prabhu and Her Grace Parijat Leela Mataji also, that it is one thing to talk about Varnashram, and it's another thing to live Varnashram and performing one's duties very properly and very nicely, right? The duties that we perform at home may not be appreciated at institute level, and they may not, but they are very highly regarded by the Supreme Lord. And especially the doing it for prolonged years, for 20 odd years, she was quite sick as such, but still the whole thing was taken care by both of them very nicely, setting a very ideal family example that how to be a good son and good daughter-in-law. So thank you so much. So we are reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. We are at Canto 3, Chapter 15, Description of the Kingdom of God. So currently we are at which verse?
Prabhuji, we have covered until 19, and then we read 20 and 21st, which are awaiting your commentation.
Okay, so maybe we'll just read through once again. So these are extremely beautiful verses describing the description of Vaikuṇṭha. And this description is very important. Why? Because this is directly coming from Brahmaji. Brahmaji is describing these. This is how Brahmaji is describing two demigods. So we know that Brahmaji has a direct darshan of the Supreme Lord, and he had a direct darshan of the Vaikuṇṭha also. And therefore, the shlokas are very, very beautiful shlokas describing the activities, mood of the devotees in Vaikuṇṭha. So just to give the preset, what has happened is there is a sudden darkness, and demigods, they are very, very worried, in a way frightened what's going to happen. They approach Brahmaji, and they are inquiring from Brahmaji. So they first approaching Brahmaji, they praise Lord Brahma, and then they inquire what is the cause of this sudden darkness, that we are unable to conduct our duties as well. And there Brahmaji says, now we are at the section 2, 12 to 25, text 12 to 25. Brahmaji says there, Taikada Bhagavato, that there once this Chatushkumar, they were traveling there, and they entered Vaikuṇṭha. And what is that Vaikuṇṭha? Now this is the description of Vaikuṇṭha. These are very celebrated verses of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Okay, so some of the verses we will recite here. We have seen text 18. Text 19 is also equally beautiful verse. We will recite this. Mandara kunda kurabat utpala champakarna.
Mandara kunda kurabot pala champakarna.
Punnaganaga parishata.
Punnaganaga parishata.
Ganderchite tulasika bharanena tasya. Yasmin tapassu manasa bahumanayanti.
Yasmin tapassu manaso bahumanayanti.
Translation.
Although flowering plants like the mandara, kunda, kurubaka, utpala, champaka, arna, punaga, nagakeshara, bakula, lily, and parijata are full of transcendental fragrance, they are still conscious of the austerities performed by Tulsi. For Tulsi is given special preference by the Lord, who garlands himself with Tulsi leaves. Purport: the importance of Tulsi leaves is very clearly mentioned here. Tulsi plants and their leaves are very important in devotional service. Devotees are recommended to water the Tulsi trees every day and collect the leaves to worship the Lord. One time an atheist Swami remarked, "What is the use of watering the Tulsi plant? It is better to water eggplant. By watering the eggplant, one can get some fruits. But what is the use of watering the Tulsi?" These foolish creatures, unacquainted with devotional service, sometimes play havoc with the education of people in general. The most important thing about the spiritual world is that There is no envy among the devotees there. There is true. This is true even among the flowers, which are all conscious of the greatness of Tulsi. In the Vaikuṇṭha world, entered by the four Kumaras, even the birds and flowers are conscious of service to the Lord. Hare Krishna.
So this is a beautiful verse describing glories of Tulasi Maharani. So there are beautiful trees there: Mandara, Kunda, Kubara, Utpala, Champa, Arna, Punnaga. And there is no English translation to these words, right? So Prabhupada just writes the words as it is: Bakula, Lily, Parijata, and so many of different transcendental fragrance and beautiful appearance. But when they are still conscious of the austerities performed by Tulasi, this is very important, right? Still conscious of the austerities performed by Tulasi. For Tulasi is given the special preference by the Supreme Lord, who garlands himself with Tulasi leaves. And we have seen the purport that Srila Prabhupada describes importance of Tulasi, watering the Tulasi every day. And that's why we will see watering the Tulasi and Tulasi Aarti is a part of daily morning program, right? So we have this Tulasi Aarti, Namo Namaha. So it is part of Tulasi Aarti. And I was just wondering one day, which mantra we chant the most? Okay. So this Tulasi mantra, we chant actually 6 times in the morning program. So this is 6 times we chant. What is that mantra? Vrindaya Tulasi Devyaya Priyaya Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Pradidevi Satyavatye Namo Namaha. So this is the Tulasi Mahamantra. In fact, the Lord abode's dham is named after Tulasi. Golok, Vrindavan. Just see, to name anything, one has to do such a sacrifice. Recently, we are having this Chhawa movie going on. And the great personality, Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj, he sacrificed his life, and where he sacrificed, that district is now known as Chhatrapati Sambhaji Nagar, right? So now, of course, I mean, the sacrifice is for dharma, and it's a great sacrifice. Just imagine what kind of sacrifice Tulsi Maharani must have performed, that the topmost Vaikuṇṭha planet is named after Tulsi Maharani, Golok, Vrindavan, right? So therefore, Tulasi is extremely important. Tulasi Puja. Srila Prabhupada says, therefore, devotees are recommended to water Tulasi every day and collect the leaves of Tulasi to worship the Supreme Lord. Even the Lakshmis, they respect Tulasi, and their offering is not complete without the Tulasi Patra. Right? We have that very beautiful pastime of Lord Krishna increasing his weight in Tuladan, and Rukmini, all the queens came and they put all their jewelry. And Rukmini, she realized that this is beyond jewelry, and she just got one tulasi leaf and put it on the another side, and it was done. So, and there are many such pastimes, right? We have seen the pastime of Namacharya Haridas Thakur. So this is the tulasi. Prabhupada says sometimes some foolish creatures, especially Mayavadis, they just make so this is the problem with Mayavadis, nirvishesha. They say, what is the difference between tulasi and eggplant? The palak ka sabji or shepu ka sabji will give you this strength and that strength. What is the use of watering tulasi? We will water shepu. Of course, you should water shepu, you should water methi, palak, and everything. But do not compare tulasi as to be something similar to any other thing. This is very similar to Viṣṇu Sarveshwareshe Tada Itara Samadhira Yasyava Narakisaha. Right. So Prabhupada says that's how they create havoc in the education of people in general. And another thing is there is no envy in the spiritual world. Nirmat Saranam Satam. What to speak of envy amongst the devotees, in a sense that, in the human form or the Vaishnavas, there is no envy even amongst the flowers and the bees. Right. So the birds we have seen previously, that, when there is a Bringadipate Harikatha Mivagayamane, there is no envy among the birds. And here there is no envy among the trees as well. what to speak of. So everybody, Prabhupada says, in the Vaikuṇṭha, even the birds and flowers, they are conscious of service to the Supreme Lord. So very amazing verse. It's a beautiful glorification of Tulasi Maharani. Next is also a very beautiful verse. We'll recite these. These are descriptions of Vaikuṇṭha, which will make us aspire for Vaikuṇṭha. People sometimes they see a picture of America, a picture of Canada, okay, and people want to go to America, Canada by route or donkey route or some way. People just simply want to go there, only to be deported back. But here we will see, why there is a description of Vaikuṇṭha, because one should aspire a life, right? What is waiting for us, right? So the next verse, I will not recite this one, but I'll just recite it once. And then the next we will recite it. Yat sankulam haripadani haripadati matra drishtair Vaiduryamarkatahe mayai vimanai yesham brihat katitata smitashobhimukya krishnatmanam naraja adadhu utsmayadhyaihi. Translation?
The inhabitants of Vaikuṇṭha travel in their airplanes, made of lapis lazuli, emerald, and gold. Although crowded by their consorts, who have large hips and beautiful smiling faces, they cannot be stimulated to passion by their mirth and beautiful charms. Purport. In the material world, opulences are achieved by materialistic persons by dint of their labor. One cannot enjoy material prosperity unless he works very hard to achieve it. But the devotees of the Lord, who are residents of Vaikuṇṭha, have the opportunity to enjoy a transcendental situation of jewels and emeralds. Ornaments made of gold bedecked with jewels are achieved not by working hard, but by the benediction of the Lord. In other words, devotees in the Vaikuṇṭha world, or even in this material world, cannot be poverty-stricken, as is sometimes supposed. They have ample opulences for enjoyment, but they need not labor to achieve them. It is also stated that in the Vaikuṇṭha world, the consorts of the residents are many, many times more beautiful than we can find in this material world, even in the higher planets. It is specifically mentioned here that a woman's large hips are very attractive and they stimulate man's passion. But a wonderful feature of Vaikuṇṭha is that although the women have large hips and beautiful faces and are decorated with ornaments of emeralds and jewels, the men are so absorbed in Krishna consciousness that the beautiful bodies of the women cannot attract them. In other words, there is enjoyment of the association of the opposite sex, but there is no sensual relationship. The residents of Vaikuṇṭha have better standard of pleasure, so there is no need of sensual pleasure.
Yeah. So here, this is the inhabitants of Vaikuṇṭha. Sometimes people may say, oh, by mistake that word must have come there. Text 17, Vaimanika, flying in their aeroplanes. Although that is not a mistake. There is a further descriptions. This Vaimanika, the Vimana, now how the Vimana is made up of Vaidurya, emerald, and the gold. Okay, Vaidurya. And then Marakata, Vaidurya, Marakata, Hema, Mayi. So this is how the Vimana is made. So that reference in Vaimanika in text 17 is not a mistaken or by chance reference. It is a very clear reference that Vimana will be explained later here in the 20th verse. What that Vimana is made up of. And who is assembling on the Vimana? The Vaimanikas, the Viṣṇu Dutas and the Vaishnavis, they are sitting there, extremely beautiful bodily features, but still they are fully absorbed in devotional service to the Supreme Lord. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that generally the material opulence is achieved by one's hard labor. One can enjoy the material prosperity only after working very hard in this life or in the previous life. Sometimes, we may see somebody who is born in a very rich family. But it's very easy to understand that devotees clearly know the understanding. What is understanding? Because they have the punya karma from the previous life. That's why they are enjoying in this life. So the hard work in this life or previous life is mandatory for material prosperity. But that is not the case with spiritual prosperity, Prabhupada says. Here in the Vaikuṇṭha planets, devotees, they are not materially hardworking. Of course, devotees are always hardworking, but not necessarily materially hardworking in the Vaikuṇṭha planets. And they are working hard to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they live with an ample opulence. Prabhupada says here, devotees cannot be poverty stricken. So what that means is that we see that Supreme Lord says, Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham. And at the same time, for a devotee, the real sampatti is performance of devotional service, which is going to guarantee them a great opulence in the Vaikuṇṭha planets. Right. So devotees are, Prabhupada writes here that, they did not labor very hard to achieve the material prosperity. Correct. This has to be taken in the age appropriate sense that we always discuss. The Vaikuṇṭha worlds, there are consorts of the residents which are more beautiful than in the material world. Okay, so bodily features of the men, of the female there, they are extremely beautiful. But because all of them are so engaged in devotional service that there is no arousal of mode of passion in the world of Vaikuṇṭha. So we come to text 21. Beautiful verse. We'll recite this one. Very nice verse. श्रीरूपिणी क्वणयति चरणारविन्दम्
श्रीरूपिणी क्वनयति चरणारविन्दम्
लीलाम्बुजेन हरिसद्मनिमुक्तदोषा
लीलाम्बुजेन हरिसद्मनिमुक्तदोषा
संलक्ष्यते स्फटिककोड्य उपेतहेम्नि
संलक्ष्यते स्फटिककोड्योपेतहेम्नि
सम्मार्जति इव यत् अनुग्रहणेऽन्ययत्नः
सम्मार्जतीव यद् अनुग्रहणेन
The ladies in the Vaikuṇṭha planets are as beautiful as the goddess of fortune herself. Such transcendently beautiful ladies, their hands playing with lotuses, their legs bangles tinkling, are sometimes seen sweeping the marble walls, which are bedecked at intervals with golden borders, in order to receive the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. In Brahma Samhita, it is stated that the Supreme Lord Govinda is always served in his abode by many, many millions of goddess of fortune. Lakshmi Shahasra Sata Shambrahma Sevya Manam. These millions and trillions of goddesses of fortune who reside in the Vaikuṇṭha planets are not exactly consorts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but are the wives of the devotees of the Lord, and also engage in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is stated here that in the Vaikuṇṭha planets, the houses are made of marble. Similarly, in the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that the ground on the Vaikuṇṭha planets is made of bloodstone. Thus, there is no need to sweep the stone in Vaikuṇṭha, for there is hardly any dust on it. But still, in order to satisfy the Lord, the ladies there always engage in dusting the marble walls. Why? The reason is that they are eager to achieve the grace of the Lord by doing so. It is also stated here that in the Vaikuṇṭha planets, the goddesses of fortune are faultless. Generally, the goddess of fortune does not remain steadily in one place. Her name is Chanchala, which means one who is not steady. We find, therefore, that a man who is very rich may become poorest of poor, poorest of the poor. Another example is Ravana. Ravana took away Lakshmi, Sitaji, to his kingdom, and instead of being happy by the grace of Lakshmi, his family and his kingdom were vanquished. Thus, Lakshmi in the house of Ravana is Chanchala or unsteady. Men of Ravana's class want Lakshmi only without her husband Narayana. Therefore, they become unsteady due to Lakshmiji. Materialistic persons find fault on the part of Lakshmi, but in Vaikuṇṭha, Lakshmiji is fixed in the service of the Lord. In spite of her being the goddess of fortune, she cannot be happy without the grace of the Lord. Even the goddess of fortune needs the Lord's grace in order to be happy. Yet in the material world, even Brahma, the highest created being, seeks the favor of Lakshmi for happiness. Hare Krishna.
Shri Rupinim Kwanayatim Charanarvindam. Very beautiful words. Leelambujena Harisatmani. Here it said, the ladies in the Vaikuṇṭha planets are as beautiful as the goddess of fortune herself. With transcendental beauty, their hands with the lotus flowers, and the leg bangles twinkling, they are sometimes sweeping the marble walls, although there is no dust in Vaikuṇṭha, simply to receive the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that there are many, many millions and trillions of goddesses of fortune. Lakshmi Sahastra Shata Sambrahma Sevyamanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. And now these are, Prabhupada writes here, very important thing, these are not exactly the consorts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they are the wives of the devotees of the Lord and also very eager to engage in the service of the Supreme Lord. Right? So they are the Vaishnavis there, and so they are also called as Lakshmi. Like, so Prabhupada says here, when you say Lakshmi Sahastra Shata Sambrahma Sevyamanam, the Lakshmi Devi herself and the associates of Lakshmi are also called as Lakshmi. Right? And the ground there is made up of, the Chintamani, Prakara Sadma Sukalpa Vriksha. And there is no need to sweep as such the Vaikuṇṭha because there is hardly any dust there. But still, they are always engaged in dusting the marble wall. Why? Because they are eager to achieve the grace of the Lord by doing so. So here Prabhupada says, generally, there is a fault in Lakshmi. What is the fault? The fault is Lakshmi is very, very chanchala. But here Lakshmi in the Vaikuṇṭha is Mukta Dosha. Mukta Dosha means free from that fault. What is that fault? Chanchala, being very unsteady. In the material world, we see that somebody is very, very rich in one generation, and couple of generations, the person will, the riches will go away. Sometimes in one generation, we know that one of the very rich man, he divided his property into two, and one son made the riches even more, and another son declared bankruptcy within 20 years of time. Within 20 years, 10 years of receiving huge sums of money, 40-50 billion US dollars in India, he declared bankruptcy. Why? Because chanchala. Srila Prabhupada says, Lakshmi in the material world is very, very chanchala. And therefore, one should never try to serve Lakshmi alone. One should try to serve Lakshmi along with her husband, that is Nārāyaṇa. And when Lord Nārāyaṇa is served, automatically Lakshmi is there. Right? Lakshmi is always there. Srila Prabhupada gives example of Ravana here, that Ravana took away Lakshmiji, Sita. And many times people have some doubts in Ramayana. So one of their big doubts that how can Ravana take away Sita Devi? Ravana never took away Sita. Right? You know the pastime that when Ravana was the person who also attended Sita Swayamvar, and he was unable to lift the bow which Sita used to play with as a small girl. Okay, and he was unable to even lift that bow. So if Ravana is unable to lift the bow which was as a plaything lifted by Sita Devi, Sita Mata, how can Ravana even touch Mother Sita, right? So this is very elaborately explained in Ramayana. People, don't read the Ramayana in depth. What to speak of explained in Ramayana, this is also very elaborately shown in Ramanand Sagar's Ramayana also, right? That there is a prasanga there when the Lord says that no, she has to do Agni Pariksha, and then Lakshmanaji become very, very upset. He says that, my dear brother, why you are asking Sita Devi to do Agni Pariksha? And then there, Lord Ram says, my dear Lakshman, I have to reveal to you. This is in Ramayana serial. Huh? This is in Ramayana serial, quite authentic, and they have picked up that time also. This is not something a new finding of Vaishnava. And he says that actually it was never a the real Sita which was taken by Ravana. How can Ravana touch even Mother Sita? It was actually Maya Sita. And then he describes the story behind the Maya Sita, Vedavati and everything. So the point here is that what Ravana took away, Prabhupada says, was Chanchala, and that destroyed the fortune of Ravana. So she is not, and that's why Prabhupada says, therefore, to the degree we want to enjoy the opulence, to that degree that opulence becomes Chanchala. And therefore, by possessing that Chanchala opulence, people also become Chanchal. And there are many examples, that very, very extremely rich people, and they are becoming very Chanchal in their general life, otherwise a very steady life, and, committed many mistakes like that. So, but still, such a Lakshmi is sweeping the floor of Vaikuṇṭha. Why? Because she wants to receive the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada. Thank you,
everyone.
Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.